And one. Hello, my loves. Welcome back to a brand new episode. I feel like I just got all of my feels before we were recording, but it's all for good reason. I have honestly one of my biggest role models as of recently. I met Alexandria Reed, who you're going to be hearing from today, just recently at a event that we were both attending and speakers at. And I've just been totally like obsessed watching her and just like being so inspired by who she is in the world and how she moves and how she inspires. And I'm just really excited for her to come bring value to you today and Embodied Live in April. So without further ado, hello, Alex.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. And thank you for those kind words. I don't take them lightly. So thank you. And they mean a lot more to me, I think, than just, some people are like, oh my God, that's so sweet. I'm like, no, that really affirms me in such a deep way. So thank you so much for having me here today. I'm excited to be here and I'm excited to be um, just in your space. Thank you for creating and sharing space with me.
Likewise, and it's my pleasure. So, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself? I know we were just talking about how you wear many roles. So, why don't you talk about all those different roles, but also like who is Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. I manifest myself in several different roles, as you just said, Sarah. I'm a mom to two bold, audacious, fiery, fierce little girls, a 10-year-old and a 3-year-old. They are my life. Um, I love them so much. And so much of what I do and how I show up in life is because of them and for them to show them. I'm a wife as well. I lead an incredible team of powerhouse women at Elevate Denver Collection. We're a team of realtors. We do luxury real estate with heart, just meaning that we take a very holistic approach to how we conduct ourselves in business and how we show up for our clients. Because we do have that specialty within luxury. One, luxury is at any price point, but also like our athlete relocation and corporate relocations. We help relocate athletes and CEOs and um, like executives and all that good stuff. And so like discretion and compassion is so necessary. And then also we have a really big heart for nonprofits. So being an at-risk youth myself, we support organizations that are really geared towards that or geared towards like domestic violence. My mom was in an abusive relationship, abusive marriage growing up. So those are really near and dear to me. And then I also am the founder of Ardor. Ardor is basically a community, it's a movement for fierce, insatiable women who just want more, even if they don't know what more is quite yet, because they can't put words to it. It's for those women that women that have that nudge of like there's something else out there. There's more. I should be doing more or I should be doing less. And I just know that there's more to life than the way that I'm feeling or the way I'm experiencing life right now. So that is Ardor, and we are that beautiful community. We host events and we have um, cohorts. We have our podcasts, just fun stuff, which is it's amazing. And Alex, as a person, is someone that I am definitely have become so passionate about, and not just the mom and the wife or the friend, but Alex is a fierce, insatiable woman. I am a woman who wants not only more for myself, but wants more for others. I want others to have more freedom to be led by themselves, by being passionate about themselves and making decisions for themselves without it being something that people view as selfish in a negative way. Like I am selfish, I am, but in a way that allows me to show up in life the way I feel like I want to and I need to. And selfish, I think, is, I know I'm getting on like I'm getting a little soapbox here,
I like
but
it.
I just think selfish really comes in. People have such a negative connotation around being selfish,
Yeah.
and I have to view that with a different lens over a different filter over it, because it's not selfish. Like for me, it's so positive to be selfish because it allows me to say yes to the things that I truly want to say yes to, and no to the things that don't serve me well. And not because I'm trying to be mean or I'm not being considerate of other people, but if it doesn't align with who I am as a person, like deep down in my knowing, then bye.
Yeah. Yep.
So that is
Bless and
Alex.
release.
Long-winded answer, but an answer nonetheless.
So beautiful. And one of the things that really stands out to me from you is like how in integrity you are and how much you really like fight for people. Not just yourself, but like you fight for people. You fight for like them to have more, and you make them believe so deeply that they do deserve more. And something that I kind of wrote down when you were talking was like, you know, whether it's doing more or whether it's doing less. And I think that that is such an important thing to touch on, because yeah, like we're kind of accustomed to always be doing more, but sometimes doing more or having more is doing less.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. I think that, like, I think the term insatiable too, people have a really negative connotation around insatiable. And
Mhm.
it's because I'm not satisfied with, I may not be satisfied with maybe the way things look right now. I know there's more. And for me, it could be there's more joy, there's more time in my day, there's more access, there's more resources, there's more connection, or there's more isolation. You know,
Yeah.
like those things are just so personal. I think more is such a personal um definition. And before we transitioned into Ardor, you know, it was like, yes, I still was under this like mindset of wanting more, but it was like more money and more this and like things that are really tangible, which is okay.
Yeah.
But really, as you get to know yourself and you become a little more resolute in
Mhm.
what you want long term, then it gives yourself a lot more freedom as to how to get there.
Yeah. Yep. So true. And I love the word insatiable because I feel the same way. Like it's not about just the materialistic things. Like we actually connected on this because we both have our nice luxury cars, and we like those are our
Oh,
anchors,
I love
right?
it.
We love them. And like it can also mean like more peace, more calm, more adventures, more memories, more laughter, and things that aren't as tangible. But it's just that desire to always want to be growing and to always be striving to be a better version of yourself.
Yep. And not being in competition with anybody else, but being in competition with like yesterday's version of yourself.
Yep.
Not, the person being in competition with the person that people want you to be or people need you to be, but
Yeah.
just in the competition with the version of yourself that was yesterday. And I don't know, I'm a firm believer, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
and it's just, I don't know, it's just different. And I don't want anybody in my life that's not adding to me.
Yeah. Beautiful. So you kind of gave a little bit of a background as to how you got into this, but I want to dive a little deeper. Like what was the like I guess catalyst to becoming luxury real estate agent, leading that team, creating Ardor? Like what kind of led you? What was your journey?
Oh gosh, I love sharing this story because I think people have an expectation as to, oh my gosh, you just like looking at houses. No, I love to look at homes. I love interior design. I design, I stage, do all that stuff. But I really got into it because I was so burnt out. I come from a hospitality background. So hospitality, events. I also had a quick stint in for about 4 years in like nonprofit work, working for a church, doing all of those things in full like campus management and director of operations. Like I've done those things, but I had gotten back into hospitality and I decided, I was like, I'm miserable.
Yeah.
I'm good at what I do. Just because I'm good at it doesn't mean that that's what I need to do for the rest of my life. And I, again, I love to volunteer. I love being a mom. I love being a wife. I love being me. But I could not fully show up the way I wanted to working for somebody else in that capacity. And
Mhm.
so I got into real estate for freedom to be able to show up in life how I wanted to. So I could volunteer more, so I could support women more. So I could be a badass mom. Sorry, I'm cussing on your podcast.
Oh, you can swear. All is welcome.
Dang it.
My girl, have you heard me talk?
I just make sure I have to be cognizant. I was sick and tired of not showing up as me.
Yeah.
Life. I was like, the life is just too short for this, So that real estate was birthed out of that, but then Gladiate Beautifully, which was what Ardor was before. Gladiate Beautifully was really birthed from a really dark season of my life where I needed and desired deeper connection and community on a deeper level where I could have really raw, honest, open communication with people. Even like as a believer and things like that, I needed someone who understood where I was at, and really found it hard to do that. And so it was birthed in the pandemic, or really before the pandemic, but I'll say it really started to blossom with the podcast during the pandemic. And so that came to be, and we started doing our big events and creating this beautiful, just amazing, diverse community that I just so craved to have. And it was out of a pain point for me that it was created.
Yeah.
Right. And then Ardor came to be. I lost my dad this past year, and it's been a very interesting year because it's where grief has really showed its face to me and how it manifests in my life. Not even just from the death of my father, but even like the death of who Alex was and the expectations that others had of Alex. And so Ardor came to be. Okay, so about a week before my last event, maybe not a week, maybe it was a couple of weeks, I had sat down and calculated how much it would cost to refund everybody their tickets, because I was like, this doesn't feel right anymore. I don't want to do this. Like, I was thinking small, I was getting scared, and it was just, grief was at my door again, and I was in a really low moment, and I had calculated how much I wanted, or how to give everybody their money back. And so I was sitting there going through all this, got my butt chewed by another mentor about it, but in a really loving way. And we still had the event. It was phenomenal. It was everything I needed to give me permission and self-permission, of course. Like, all right, Alex, you fulfilled that, and you showed up, and you did what you need to do in that season. That season is now over. It's time for you to let that go and move into this next season that God has for you, and that you were created for, And so from then I gave myself permission to kind of let Gladiate go and allow myself to walk into Ardor. And Ardor, or Ardor, is the word, and the way we spell it is the phonetic pronunciation, but it really is about an intense feeling of passion. And that is what I have for myself, and that's what I desire for other women to have for themselves. And it's not that you're going to be perfect, or that, oh my God, everything's so great, and oh my God, I'm going to manifest that shit, and like, it's not that. It is very much like, I am so passionate about myself and who I am and who I am becoming every single day, that I will be relentless in the way that I show up for her, and that her is me. And I want that same feeling for everyone else. I want everyone else to give themselves permission to feel like shit one day, and hell, maybe 2 hours later, they're back on top of the world again. They like, great, got my gut check, I'm good, I can keep going. So that's how we came to be. And I'm grateful to be here, because it has also led me to connecting with you and your beautiful soul.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, there's so many directions I want to go in right now.
I'm sorry.
I know. I love it. I love it so much. And like, you guys, this is like, when you heard her speak right there, can you feel like that is an embodied woman right there? Like that freaking that passion, right? Like I didn't know where Ardor came from. And I was actually going to ask you, like, that deep passion, that burning passion. And it's like one of the themes for Embodied Live is, this is your purpose and nothing is going to stop you.
Yeah.
Like that relentlessness that you have and devotion to being her. Oh my God. I just love it.
Everything. She's everything to me.
Yeah.
Like, as much as like how I refer to my kids, like, oh my God, I love them, they're my everything. And I mean, of course we say that because they're our parents, but like, I have to be everything.
You have to be.
I have to be everything so that they can see what that looks like.
Yep.
So, yeah.
That is so powerful.
Thank
Uh,
you.
and now you mentioned the grief piece of this,
Yeah.
and this has been super alive in your life this year. And I would love to dive deeper into that because this is also what you're going to be bringing to Embodied Live, specifically around like letting go of past versions of you.
Yeah.
So let's rip on that.
I love that because grief, life is such a teacher. And I am a firm believer also that life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And in the moments that we really feel like it's happening to us is when we are the victims. And I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying that um, being a victim is a bad thing. I'm not saying like victim shaming. I'm not doing that. But when you sit in the it's happening to me for too long, then you do become a victim in a negative way. You become this just kind of going through life as if you have no control, or, going through life like, well, everything happens for a reason. Also, things happen because you make bad fucking choices. Like,
Yeah.
like, so like you can't like sit on that. But um grief is, again, such a negative word, but it is something that is so necessary in so many ways. And while grief is expected to be very this linear, like 12-step process kind of thing, all the stages of grief, it isn't like that. I was talking to someone, I don't remember who it was, I think it was last week sometime, about this idea of, God, okay, in order for me to tell you about the idea, I have to give you a little
I
story.
love it.
So, girlfriend and I went on a girls' trip this past fall, and we were in Brussels. Or we took a day trip to Brussels. We were staying in Paris, but we took a day trip to Belgium and wanted to go to Brussels for the day. And
Which, by
so,
the way, we were pretty much in Paris at the exact same time. I don't know if you know that.
stop.
Yeah. October,
No,
October, early October.
we were like October, I think like 15th to like the 24th or something. I don't
So we
remember.
like just missed each other.
Like,
Anyways.
well, Paris is my favorite city in the entire world. I mean, I haven't been everywhere in the world, but as of right now, it is my favorite place in the entire world.
Same.
So we take a day trip to Brussels, and we're like, all right, we've got like what, 6 hours here. Like, what are we gonna do to make the most of this 6 to 8 hour day? And so we got on one of these, like those little touristy hop on, hop off buses.
Mhm.
And the way, now I can get to my point. So the way it kind of came to me is like, oh my God, this is totally what grief is like. And like, well, like I want to see this whole entire city. I'm going to get through the whole entire city real quick so I can see every part of it. But I have to get on and off and on and off in order to see it through and to get through the entire process of that. And I think that grief is very much more than it is linear. It is very like circular and like messy, because every time we got off, we had to find our way back to the bus or back to our bus stop. And so I think grief takes you on this journey to explore different parts of yourself,
Yeah.
and then brings you back to like your center. And so that the hop on, hop off bus is like your center, right? You get off and you go explore this like season of depression, or you go and explore this stage of being just angry with yourself about maybe a decision that you made. Or about decisions or regret. And we're talking about death of someone, like a regret, like I wish I would have called them more. I wish I would have, said these things to them. I wish I would have done this. But when you look at it outside of just grief, outside of a grieving a death or grieving a person, I was able to connect that to myself of this hop on, hop off bus being me. Like that's my safe, like I'm centered there, like that's my home, like
Yeah.
that's where I that is my method for going through life, is through this hop on, hop off bus. But it is so necessary if I want to see and explore and really know who I am, and know what moves me, and know what shakes me, and know what grounds me, and know where I need to be healed. I have to get off that bus and journey through those things. And so grief this last year with losing my dad, it has really taught me a beautiful thing, to that grief is one of the most necessary parts of growth, and then one of the most necessary parts for you becoming yourself. Because
Yeah.
when we're small and we're young, like how they tell you about toddlers are relentless. I have a 3-year-old and she is relentless. She is like, it doesn't matter. She tells my husband one day, he's like I love you, and like looking like over her face, and she just looks up and is like, your glasses are ugly. And I'm like, wow, like she's like honest. But like what I respect about her so much is that she is her truest self. She
Mhm.
hasn't gone through the conditioning of needing to come back to herself. She's just herself. Granted, because she have a little more tact, absolutely, but she comes back to herself. So again,
Yeah.
I think with that, what I'm trying to get to is that the hop on bus is you going back to yourself, but you do have to get off of it so you can figure out exactly what you need to grieve in order to come back on it, because all of your luggage, all of your baggage, all of the shit that the world has taught you and conditioned to you while you're in that season of depression, or while you're in this season of being anxious or overworking yourself or in hustle culture, you have to be able to get back to your hop on, hop off bus.
Yep.
But you can't take all that shit with you because it's not going to fit. You've got to travel light. And so traveling light is being good and whole with what is in you, and like what has happened for you and not to you, because all of the things that happen to you just get added on. It's just another bag, it's just another piece of luggage, and that all can't come with you if you're wanting to move forward in life. And with grief, you've got to grieve the person that you thought you had to be. You have to grieve the person, the woman that isn't capable of coming into that next season of life with you. And
Yeah.
that's okay. Or grieving people, like, oh my God, as an adult, like grieving friendships. Like friendship
Hmm.
losses are horrible.
Yeah.
No one talks about that shit. That's hard.
Yeah.
But once you can say it, like instead of being a victim and saying this happened to you, like this happened for me. Like, wait, what lesson was I supposed to learn about myself in this? Not
Yeah.
about like, well, I should have told her off and I should have done this. Like, no, like what? Okay, you know what, Alex? You have to grieve expectations that you have not conveyed. You have to grieve the disappointment that you caused because you didn't articulate your expectation. So now as I step into Ardor, and this is a true story for me, as I stepped into Ardor, I had to be like, okay, I've grieved that. I can no longer have that because that does not serve me. So what does serve me, because I'm passionate about me and how I feel and what makes me whole, what does serve me is having this person in my life and articulating to them how I need for them to show up for me. And if they fall short of that, that's another situation, because I told you what I need. I asked what I needed, or
Yeah.
I asked for what I needed. I told you what it meant to me. And if you fall short of that, I'm not saying that you have to be perfect, but now I know that if there's something that happens, it's not because I failed to communicate my expectations.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's because I'm fiercely devoted to myself. Like I have to be, because if nobody else is going to be fiercely devoted to you but you.
Yeah. It's so true. And like, I look at grief from the standpoint of, if you're grieving something, like there was something special there,
Yeah.
and whether it was a friendship or a family member or a past version of yourself, or a lesson, like there was something there, or else the grief wouldn't even exist.
Right. 100%. There was something of value.
Mm-hmm.
There was
Yeah.
something of value. And that's not saying that the bad, like when you're talking about shedding these layers and grieving the person or traits that you used to have, it's not that they were always bad. They just no longer serve you.
Yeah.
They no longer, that version, or that version of Alex that was, people pleasing, doesn't serve me anymore.
Yeah.
But it's not because it didn't make me feel good to make sure people were happy and make sure people were taken care of and serving them. That served me for that season. But now I can't abandon myself to do those things, because
Yeah.
that doesn't serve.
Yeah. Yeah. Something that I think we both learned 2022 was like that. And it's so freaking hard. It's so hard, but grieving the vision that you had.
Woo, girl, yes.
Yeah, it's big. I mean, I know, and my audience knows, like the embodied coach, like that was the thing, and that was supposed to be the next big thing. And then the passion just started to fade for it because it didn't feel true anymore. It was like it was actually even bigger than just the coach, right? But it was so hard to fully let go. And with the idea of like seeing myself on stage and being like, oh shit, like, no, this wasn't in the vision, but this is really, really big. And I don't know if I'm fully ready for it. It's like I was clinging on to the embodied coach. I was clinging on to the old vision. But by doing that, I was blocking so much opportunity and so much magic.
It's you though. It's you. It's you. It has nothing to do, but when you come back to you, you're like, okay, let me read. I'm not looking at this through the lens that needs to be looked at. But the same way a photographer can't use the same lens for every shot. Like I take that lens off and put another lens on. I'm like, okay, now this, I see it now. Okay,
Yep.
got it. And so again, it happened for you. This not being in the vision is happening for you, not to you.
Yeah. So what would you say outside of that to the person who might be grieving like a vision or expectations around like themselves or their business? What would you say to that person?
I would say to one, let yourself feel it. It's okay. I'm not saying that grief isn't bad. Like let yourself feel it. And then honestly, talk to somebody.
Yeah.
It's not something that so often we have this inner dialogue with ourselves and we don't share our dreams or we don't share our visions or our goals with other people. But being accountable to someone, not that they're responsible for you, but someone that you can consider safe and that'll call you out and call you up into things is extremely important. So I would say definitely talking to somebody, and whether that be a mentor or whether it be a friend, a mom, or whatever, do that, but only if you're truly safe with that person. Just because they love you, like a friend or a mom, just because they love you doesn't mean that's a safe place for you.
Totally.
And so making sure you find a safe place for you to have this type of dialogue. And honestly, I know it sounds super, I guess, salesy to say it like this because I'm in that space, but you should hire someone.
Yeah.
It's their job to hold you accountable. It is, and not that they're doing it for the money, but it's because they're good at it. And so like go hire a coach, go seek out a mentor, whatever you need to be able to call you up and call you out and call yourself into yourself. So I think if you're going through that grief, you need to talk about it with someone, honestly. And I'm not even just from a mental health standpoint, just very, very basic level of just, hey, I know that I'm experiencing these feelings. I just need to like talk through this, and then it can help so much.
Yeah. I love that you said the word earlier with the bus analogy. Explore it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like
Oh
even
my
just,
God, yeah.
yeah.
Write it down. And that's why I say talk about it, because it's when it's in your head, it's just you're bouncing off of the walls that are within your head, right?
Exactly.
Where you can explore it by having this conversation, because I may be able to I can ask you a question, or you could ask me a question that allows me to dig a little bit deeper and be like, oh, I didn't even connect this and this, and this is why this is this. Because you can always see, what is that expression? You can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
You see the forest, but until you turn around, then you can see all the individual trees that you walked through that made up that forest. But it's very difficult to see it when you're walking this way.
Yep.
So it's really important to get it out of your head, so then you can look back and be like, okay, this is how this is all connecting together.
Yep. The amount of times that like I have and my clients have like just voice messaged me and been like, hey, so like I have this thing and I have this idea and I'm experiencing this, and just speaking it, they almost coach themselves through it.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
100%, because they just, until you get it out, you have to get it out of your head. It can't live rent free in your head. You don't have that kind of space. Don't become a hoarder. It's like a mind hoarder. Don't do that.
Yes, so good. I love this conversation so much. So something else that I wrote down earlier was not I guess it's letting go of that past version of you, but also feeling the sense of like, damn, like I love her. Like she got me where I am. Right. So it's like a really, really strong, like, who do I need to become next?
Yeah.
And that feels really scary because you know who you are right now, and she got you to where you are right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is not going to get you to your next, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
it's not because she's not capable, but it's because you may not have gathered the skill set, or you haven't allowed room for that. And I think when you're looking to become that next version of yourself, you have to make sure that there's space
Mm-hmm.
for you to get there. Right. And then so I think if you don't have any space, like the whole luggage analogy. So if you've been carrying all this stuff on back onto your hop on, hop off bus, and there's no room for anything else, like, then what?
Yeah.
Then what? So I think it's about creating space for yourself and creating space for that growth. So letting yourself grieve those things so that you can step into that next. And that's that whole idea still of things happening for you, not
Yeah.
to you. If they happen to you, then of course you're just like, oh, I'm just collected another heartbreak, or I just collected this, collected that. Whether if it happens for you, it's designed to teach you something.
Yeah.
And that once you learn something and you apply that knowledge, that is your power to then walk into that next step, but only if you take the lesson and keep moving. But if you take the hit as, it happening to you, then you're, brother down. I don't know, like
Yep.
that.
No, I love that so much because like one of the like key pieces of work is for me at least is like living in your power.
Yeah.
And when you do live from a place of things are happening to me versus for me, you're really giving it all away. And when you say like I'm choosing to give this a meaning that actually serves me, like think about the power you take back in your life just by choosing to give it a new meaning that is of service, that it is happening for you.
100%. There is this quote that I'm obsessed with. Um, it's from this excerpt, but I'm gonna pull it. So bear with me, guys.
Mm-hmm.
But it's from Toni Morrison. Um, and she says, "You are your best thing." And it is something that has truly transformed my life, of just really understanding that, Alex, like, you are your best thing. Like, you are your most valuable asset. It is you. Like, you're the secret sauce. Like, even like when you talk about niching down, like, in business, we're always taught to, a lot of business coaches will tell you, you need to niche down. Like, who's your niche? What's your niche? My niche is me.
Yep.
And I had to realize that my niche is me in the same way that your niche is you. Like,
Exactly.
oh, I specialize in, like, you're not a doctor. You know what I mean? Like, you're not a doctor. It's not like you need to specialize in, I'm a neurosurgeon and I specialize in, well, like, no, you're
But
the niche.
even
But then you
still with
also,
that,
yeah,
like think
makes
about
you
the
practice.
conversation we had right before we recorded, like the brand that the doctor you referred me to, like
Yeah,
her brand is her, not the fact that she's that specialist.
yeah, exactly. It's not like there's a million freaking OBGYNs,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
I go to her because of her. I drive 40, 45 minutes away because of her.
Yep.
I'm still searching for this because it's so beautiful and I feel like the world needs to hear it.
Yes, we want to hear it. Take your time.
Because I know that's the quote, but like the context of it's so beautiful. Uh,
You said Toni Morrison?
uh,
Yes.
it's just such a beautiful. Let me see if I can find it. Da, 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 da. Thank you guys for being patient.
Oh,
It's just
they're like, I
so
want to hear this quote. This is a little
it's
tease for them.
it's just so good, and it's just well, I mean, if I can't find it, but there's also this book by Tarana Burke and Brene Brown.
Uh-huh. Oh, I love them.
Basically, they're amazing. And it's called "You Are Your Best Thing" after the quote by Toni Morrison, and is and it's like a collection of like essays, and it's definitely based about, or a lot of like Black authors and Black writers like writing these essays, and different women of color, but it's really about like vulnerability and like shame and being resilient and that experience of Black women or Black people of color. But it's on this premises that talks about how we shouldn't be ashamed to acknowledge our pain. And I think so much of that is when I say like you are your best thing. It doesn't matter like what life, when life has happened for you and not to you, you are still you at the end of the day. When you
Yeah.
let things happen to you, that changes, you know, that changes who you are as far as how you respond to the next when you choose to view it through a lens of happening into you opposed to for you. So taking and acknowledging the shame or the pain is what's going to work for you. But if you decide to just tuck it away and put it in your suitcase, it's just going to weigh you down. And
Yep.
so you have to let that go in
Yeah.
order to, become you, in order for you to really walk in being your best thing.
So good. I remember Brene Brown, I heard her speak on how I think it was like one of the hardest things for people to feel was actually joy because of the vulnerability that it requires and the fear of grieving, the fear
Yeah.
of, right? Like if I experience that much joy, like so it's only has to come down, right? And that requires vulnerability, that requires grieving. And people are afraid of the pain. People are afraid of grieving and being vulnerable.
So afraid, but running away from it isn't going to make it go away.
Nope. Nope.
So you
It's
have to, like
inevitable.
you said earlier, you have to explore that.
It's so true. And as someone who my defense mechanism has always been to numb, right? Ever since, and I know people can relate to this. I had a big heartbreak, right? That kind that you just like cracks you wide open and
Yep.
you're just like on your knees begging God, like, why is this happening, right? And I had one of those, and now where I'm at, it's like, totally makes sense. But in the moment, I didn't want to feel the pain. And so I didn't want to feel that type of pain again. And so I went into this defense mechanism of completely numbing myself from pain. But when you numb yourself from pain, you numb yourself from joy. Right.
Yep. Ooh, you do.
And
You do.
yeah. And so what I'm just going to emphasize what you're saying, Alex, is like, you've got to let yourself feel it. You've got to explore it. You've got to experience it because there is something of value for you in the darkness and in the shadows, in the grief. And when you can feel the grief, you can feel the joy again.
Yeah, you can feel the joy. Oh, it is. You can feel the joy again. It's like that whole idea of like darkness and light.
Yep.
Like when you turn the light on, the darkness isn't fighting, it just goes.
Yeah.
Not its time anymore. So turn the light on is the same thing. It's not going to fight it. The same way if joy comes and you're grieving, you're not going to fight the joy. It'll just come.
Exactly.
They go hand in hand. The same way the darkness exists, the same way the light exists.
Yeah. And sometimes they literally coexist.
Yeah. Oh, duality is such a thing, such a thing. And like people don't really understand duality. I mean, duality is easily represented in, I feel like light and dark, like sun, we'll say sunshine, right? So sunshine, the light is shining, the sunshine is shining, right? And it shines on me. I'm getting that light, but there's also casting a shadow, and that is dark. So
Yes.
those being able to exist they exist at the exact same time.
Yeah.
So I could go on and on about that. I will not.
I love it. Well, we will save more of this for Embodied Live because I just know that you're going to bring so much value, so much transformation, so many breakthroughs for these women. So I would love to know where everyone listening can hang out with you and follow you and explore your community, explore your services. Where is the best place for them to find you?
Absolutely. Instagram is always the easiest, guys. We're at the Arter, but it's the phonetic spelling. So it's ARDER. So at the dot ARDER. And that's where we're hanging out these days. And we love it over there. Our community is something that's very, very beautiful. We're so grateful to have it. It's We do a monthly membership. I'm really passionate about accessibility, especially for women, and women of color haven't typically invested in themselves in the past. And that's definitely changing. And so I wanted to make sure we had an accessible way to access all this life-changing content and modalities. And so we have like our $40 like base membership. And then we also have our intensive, which is a 12-week cohort program that is my baby, and that yours truly above me. I don't know how they're seeing it, or beside me. I know
Beside you.
beside me, yours truly beside me, is going to be in with us on that, talking about prosperity and wealth and all of those lovely things. And it's just a beautiful place where I think women can have access to these different things that they need to access that next level of themselves, without perhaps the grand investment that it would take to go through each and one of these different programs with these incredible mentors. So that's where we're hanging out, is over at the Ardor. And I hope, if this aligns with you, that you see us over there.
And I'm sure they will, because we got a lot of insatiable women here who always want more.
More. Well, I'm happy to be here with you. And Sarah, I honor you, and I thank you for creating a space and holding space for embodied women. So thank you.
It is my honor, deeply. Well, you guys, make sure that you go follow Alex. I'll link her personal Instagram and the Ardor account, so you guys can just like play with her on both, because I mean, I'm in her world and it's just a really, really powerful world to be in. And catch her at Embodied Live. April 1st is when she will be speaking and moving the room with her magic. I'm like so excited for it. I'm going to be like, they're taking notes. Like, I am so excited, and hopefully we'll be able to see you there. So thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone you love. And Alex, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Mwah.